We've all heard countless stories about the deceiver spirit, a mysterious force that lures people into illusions. Most of these stories remain just tales to us, but only the person who actually gets trapped inside such an experience knows what it truly feels like. Today's story was sent to us by Mr. Victor Barnes, a businessman from Westport, where his main office is also located. And now, this is the story in his own words. My name is Victor, and I'm a businessman. Because of my work, I often have to travel to cities like Central City, Bayview, Brookdale, and Eastvale. One day, I had to go to Southwood for a business meeting, but just a few days earlier, I had promised my wife that I would take her on a trip to Coral Bay. When she found out about my meeting, she got angry, and honestly, she had every right to. I hadn't been able to give her much time lately, so I decided to combine the business trip with the vacation. But there was one problem. My wife had never traveled by plane before, and she was terrified of flying. So, for her sake, I planned to go to Southwood by road. The plan was, first, we would drive to Coral Bay. I would drop her at a hotel. Then I'd go on to Southwood for work, finish everything, and return to Coral Bay. According to the plan, we left home and drove through the night. Around 11 p.m., we stopped at a small roadside hotel in North Shore to have dinner. After eating, we got back on the road, or at least, we thought we did. Instead of returning to the highway, we accidentally drove into some random side roads and got completely lost. We wandered around the area for a while before finally opening the map app again, trying to redirect ourselves back to the highway. But after a few minutes, the phone signal vanished completely. Still, relying on our guesswork, we kept driving through a rough dirt road. After a while, we spotted a beam of light ahead. It was a farmer holding a torch while watering his fields at night. We stopped the car beside him and asked for directions to the highway. He spoke in the local language. Thankfully, I understood it well. Some of my friends were from around here. He said something like, "Go straight ahead. You'll see the roads, one small, one big. Take the big one, and after about 5 kilometers, you'll reach the highway." I thanked him and drove onward. But when we reached the spot he mentioned, we were shocked, because there weren't 2 roads, there were 3, and all 3 looked wide enough to be the big one. My wife snapped. "I thought you said you understood the language clearly." I said, "I did." He clearly said there were only 2 roads. We both realized we must have gotten lost again. My wife grew even more frustrated and started cursing the farmer under her breath. After thinking for a moment, I said, "Let's pick one road. If it doesn't lead to the highway, we'll come back and take another." Everything around us was pitch black. No lights, no houses, nothing. It felt like we had driven straight into a forest. So, according to our plan, we took one of the roads. We drove nearly 7 or 8 kilometers, but still no sign of a highway. So I turned the car around. But just as we did, we saw a house in the distance, a house with a single light glowing outside. My wife and I froze. She whispered, "We just passed this way. There was no house here. Where did that house and that light come from?" I was just as shocked, but I tried to calm her. Maybe someone woke up and turned the light on. Maybe we just didn't notice it earlier. Even though I knew I was lying, there really had been no house here before, but I didn't want to scare my wife or myself. My phone still had no signal, so I said, "Let's ask whoever lives there for directions." I drove toward the house. When we got close, we saw an old man sitting on the doorstep. I stopped the car a little distance away and told my wife to stay inside while I went alone. Just the moment I stepped out, a strange feeling washed over me. I heard faint whispers like dozens of people murmuring at once. There was noise in my ears, but the surroundings were deadly silent. I forced myself to walk toward the old man. He sat with his head buried between his knees, as if asleep. I called out gently, Sir, we're lost. We need directions to the highway." Suddenly, he lifted his head. The old man lifted his head and whispered to me, "Come inside. Come into the house. There's plenty of space here. Come in. There's so much room in my home." As he said this, he pushed the door open wider. When I looked inside, I saw dozens of people lying on the floor, as if they were sleeping. I told him, "No, sir, it's very late. Please just tell us the way back to the highway, and we'll leave." But he kept repeating the same line. "Come in. There is a lot of space here. Come rest. Look at them. They've been sleeping for days, for months, for years. You should come too. I will put you into a peaceful sleep." A shiver shot through my entire body. My hair stood on end. But what I saw next was even worse. When I looked closely at the people inside the house, none of them were moving, not even the slightest twitch dot, and then I noticed something terrifying. None of them were breathing. That's when I realized this was something unnatural, something otherworldly. I didn't even dare look at the old man again. I slowly turned around, and suddenly, the faint whispering I had heard earlier became crystal clear. Come inside. Come. It's our home. Come sleep with us. Come inside. All those dead people were calling out to me in unison. My whole body trembled. My wife was watching me from the car, her eyes wide with fear. I signaled her to stay quiet, but suddenly she saw something behind me and the color drained from her face. She gestured frantically for me to hurry back to the car. I somehow staggered back and sat in the driver's seat. When I looked at the house again, all those dead bodies were now standing at the doorway. Every single one of them. They were all raising their hands, beckoning me. Come inside. Come to us. Come. My wife and I were shaking so badly that we couldn't even speak to each other. I slowly reversed the car and then sped down the dirt road as fast as I could. God, what was that? Never in my life had I encountered anything like it. My wife started crying uncontrollably, but I told her to stay quiet because I myself was shaking so hard that I could barely think straight. I just kept driving, faster and faster. After about 15 or 20 kilometers, I finally stopped the car. I turned to my wife. Are you okay? Tell me you're okay. She wasn't even able to talk properly. She kept muttering the same thing again and again. What was that? You saw them, right? Tell me, Victor. Who were they? What were they? I tried to calm her. We'll talk when we get somewhere safe. I don't even know what that was. I handed her a bottle of water and told her to wash her face. But neither of us had the courage to step out of the car. She leaned out of the window and washed her face. I lowered my window too and splashed water on my face. But the moment I lifted my head, my blood turned to ice. The bottle slipped from my hand. My eyes refused to blink. My wife looked outside too, and she broke down completely. Victor, look in front of us. Right there on the side of the road, the same house, the same dim light outside, and the same old man sitting on the doorstep. He raised his head slowly and said, come inside. There's plenty of space here. Come in. There's only peace here. Nothing but peace. Come on. Come inside. My mind stopped working. I was so terrified that I couldn't even hold the steering wheel properly. I tried to start the car, but it wouldn't start. My wife screamed, start it. Please, let's go. Hurry. But I couldn't think. I couldn't focus. All I heard was the same whispering. Come inside. This is our home. Come sleep peacefully. Come inside. My heart was collapsing. It was too horrifying, too overwhelming. My wife was gasping in fear. I felt my blood freezing. I kept turning the key again and again, but the engine wouldn't start. If I had stayed even a few moments longer, I swear my heart would have stopped. But luckily, the car finally started. I slammed the accelerator and drove as fast as the car could go. The dirt road was dangerous. I could crash any second, but the fear behind me was 10 times worse. Stopping was not an option. I kept driving. I don't even know for how long. But the worst part? We kept seeing the same house again and again. The same old man. The same dead figures calling us. We were trapped circling back to the same spot over and over. My wife sobbed uncontrollably, and I just kept driving. We didn't stop. We kept driving for a long time, until slowly the sky began turning red. Morning was close. The first rays of sunlight were spreading across the sky, and then suddenly, we saw a beam of TO or CHLIGHT. It was the same man, the farmer, still watering his fields. I told my wife, look, that's the same farmer from the night. But Emily was so terrified that she begged me not to stop the car. Everything we had seen had shaken our minds so badly that now even normal things felt unreal. Still, I gathered some courage and slowed the car near the field. As soon as he saw the car, the farmer ran toward us. What happened, sir? Didn't you find the road? He recognized us immediately, but when he looked closely at our faces, he seemed to understand something was terribly wrong. Without a word, he ran back to his small hut. A moment later, he returned with his wife, both carrying water. They made us drink it and guided us to their hut. For the first time after that horrifying night, I heard the voice of a living human, and it brought me a little relief. They made us tea and told us to rest for a while. But while we were drinking the tea, the farmer told us something strange, something terrifying. He said, I told you there would be the paths ahead, but you must have seen a third. That third road doesn't exist. It leads nowhere. It's a phantom path. He continued, I've lived in this village for many years. I've heard many stories about that illusion. Very few people return alive once they take that path. I then told him everything, the house, the old man, the dead people, the whispers in my ears. The farmer nodded slowly, as if he already knew all of it. He said, that's not a house. It's a cremation ground, a cursed resting place. That old man is its keeper. Whoever goes near it, he invites them inside. And if anyone, even by mistake, steps inside, they become a part of that place forever. He puts them to sleep for eternity. He looked at me seriously. The corpses you saw, they were all people who fell for the illusion. They belong to that place now. You're lucky you didn't enter. Very few people can resist their voices. Hearing this, I finally began to calm down a little. I had truly come back from the jaws of death. My wife and I rested at the farmer's hut for some time. We thanked both him and his wife sincerely. Around 11 a.m., we left. This time we followed exactly the path he had described. He warned us, don't worry. That illusion can only trap people in darkness. After a short distance, just like he said, we saw two roads, one small and rough, the other wide and paved. We chose the larger road, but the fear from the night still lingered so strongly that even in daylight, we kept looking around, terrified that the house or the old man might reappear. Thankfully, nothing happened. After 5 or 6 kilometers, we finally saw the highway ahead. We both sighed in relief. Without speaking a word, we headed straight home. I canceled both my business meeting and our Coral Bay trip. People say such stories are fake, but only the person who experiences something like this knows what real fear is. A few years later, my name is Nimesh Sikli. I'm from Westport, and in 2007 or 2008, I moved to Eastport for my studies. Our college was huge, so a few of us rented a room together. Within a few days, I became close friends with a guy named Amilcale, who was from Ravenridge. His village was somewhere near there. I don't remember the exact name after so many years. We became really good friends. We would talk for hours late at night. One night, during our conversations, he told me something interesting. He said he belonged to a large, old family in Ravenridge. Most of the houses and farmland in his village belonged to his relatives. But the strangest part was, there was never any theft in their village. No outsider ever dared to step onto their land without permission. And if someone ever tried to do something wrong, they were punished. This raised many questions in my mind. The land, the house is fine, but what was this punishment all about? So I asked him, Amil, why? What kind of punishment? I said to him, in your village anyone can sneak in, do something wrong, and leave quietly. A thief won't shout that he's stealing, right? Then he told me something strange. He said that there was a very old house in their village, almost like a temple, and every year a secret ritual was performed there. Their ancestors, who were long dead, protected their land and their people. They kept the village safe from any danger. Hearing this confused me. I never believed in ghosts or spirits. I mean, think about it. How could someone who died long ago protect land and houses? A few days later, our vacation was about to begin. So I thought, why not visit Aaron's village? He keeps talking about it anyway. We could travel, explore, and enjoy our vacation at the same time. Aaron booked train tickets for both of us, and we left for his village eventually. We reached Ravenridge. As soon as we got down, we headed straight to his village, where we were near the village boundary. I saw a small river with a tiny old bridge built over it. We had to cross that bridge to enter the village. We got off near the bridge. Aaron stepped out of the vehicle, looked toward the village, put his hands together, and whispered a prayer. Then he took our train tickets from his pocket and threw them into the river. I asked him, "What are you doing? Why did you do that?" Aaron said, "Whenever we enter the village, we must inform our ancestors that we are coming." So jokingly I said, "I hope you told them about me too. Otherwise they might think I'm a thief and punish me." And I laughed. Aaron looked annoyed. Asterisk, shut up. Man, this is a tradition in our village. Then we went to his house. The moment we arrived, his mother, father, brother, and sister welcomed us warmly. We had some breakfast and rested for a while. In the afternoon, Aaron said, "Come, I'll show you around the village. Now that you're here, you should see our land, farms, and orchards." So we went out. There were around 30 to 40 houses in the whole village, and everyone belonged to the same extended family. Their fields and orchards surrounded the houses entirely. To exit the village, there was only one main road, It passed right through the village center. As we were walking on that road, I saw a slope in the distance. On the slope stood a very old ruined structure built from massive stones. It looked like an ancient ancestral mansion, a wada. I asked Aaron, "Hey, this is the place, right? Where your ancestors are worshipped?" He looked at the building and nodded. I began teasing him again. "Come on, let's go inside and meet your grandpa and great-grandpa." But he said quickly, "No, I don't have permission to enter. You need permission to go inside the mansion. You can't just walk in." I grabbed his hand and pulled him a little. "Come on, man. They're your own ancestors. They won't scold you." He pulled his hand away. "No, man. Please don't force me. I've never gone inside that mansion in my entire life." I laughed and said, "How is that even possible? It's your family's ancestral house, and you've never gone in. We'll just look for a minute and come back." But Aaron kept refusing. "No, man. Drop it. Don't insist." He was genuinely scared, but I still tried persuading him. "Bro, ever since you told me about your ancestors, I've wanted to see it myself. If you don't want to come, fine. You stay here. I'll go inside alone." Aaron looked terrified. "If you want to go, go alone. I'm not coming. Whatever happens after that is on you. I'm going home." I didn't force him further. Instead, I teased him the entire way back, mocking the ancestral ritual. Later, we wandered around the nearby fields and returned home. At night, we had dinner, and afterward, we decided to go out for a smoke. As we walked down the road, I saw the same ancestral mansion again. Dark, silent, looming. I immediately started teasing Aaron again. "Hey Aaron, look, your ancestors' house. I don't think they're protecting your village. You've locked them in that place for years. Why would they protect you?" He snapped. "Stop joking, man. Why are you hell-bent on disrespecting them? You're a guest. That's why they're quiet. Otherwise, by now you would have known what happens here." I laughed at him. "Bro, I still want to go inside that mansion. Come on, it'll only take a few minutes." Aaron got angry. "Drop it. Let's smoke and leave. It's too dark. This is a village. People sleep early." But I wasn't listening anymore. I walked straight toward the huge wooden doors of that ruined ancestral mansion. I walked up to the huge old door and placed my hand on it. "Come on, at least we can knock once, right?" I joked out. Aaron panicked even more. "Bro, listen to me. Let's just go home. You don't know what happens here. My grandpa won't spare even me if something goes wrong. Here, the punishment is the same for everyone." He still refused to go near the door, and honestly, his fear made me laugh. So I teased him. "What punishment? Your own grandfather, great-grandfather. They're the ones inside, right? They're going to punish their own grandson." I couldn't believe this nonsense. Aaron got irritated. "Dude, stop it. Let's go back home." But before leaving, I still knocked once on the old wooden door. Aaron almost begged me, "Bro, please. You're going to get me into trouble. Come home right now. If anything goes wrong, what will I tell my family?" I sighed. "All right, fine. Let's go." We finished our cigarettes and started walking back. As we walked, I felt something behind us, as if someone was following me. I stopped for a few seconds to feel it, but nothing happened. We walked a little further, and I felt it again. I turned around. No one was there. I switched on my phone's flashlight and continued walking. A few seconds later, I clearly heard footsteps behind me, someone walking right behind us. I said, "Aaron, do you feel something weird?" He said, "No." I whispered, "Bro, someone is behind us." Without even looking back, he said, "There's no one. Just walk faster." So we started walking quickly, but the faster we walked, the stronger the feeling became, like someone was right behind me. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I froze. "Aaron, someone's hand is on my shoulder." Aaron snapped, "Bro, I know you from the hostel. Don't prank me at night. Just walk." He kept walking fast, but I knew I wasn't imagining this. I said, "Aaron, I'm not joking. I swear." And then it happened. I stopped walking because the hand on my shoulder slowly slid down, all the way to my wrist. I shouted, "Aaron, someone is holding my hand." It felt like an iron grip, strong, cold, unmovable. I couldn't move at all. I stood frozen like a statue. My body wouldn't react. Then something worse happened. My voice stopped working. I was screaming Aaron's name inside my mind, but nothing came out of my mouth. Aaron ran back to me, grabbed my other hand, and started pulling me hard. He kept shouting, Nows. Move, move, bro, move. I tried. I truly tried, but I couldn't move an inch. I was completely paralyzed. For nearly 5 minutes, something held me tightly, something invisible. Then suddenly, my whole body turned weak, like all my strength had been drained. My knees buckled, and I collapsed on the ground. Aaron lifted me up with difficulty and took me home. When we reached the house, he explained everything to his family. His mother checked me and found I had a high fever. She examined me carefully, but found no marks on my body. She began wiping me with a wet cloth, but my fever kept rising, and soon I lost consciousness. Aaron's family panicked. They didn't know what to do. They tried every way they knew to help me. Aaron's mother continued cooling me with a wet cloth. In that half-conscious state, I started mumbling, "Forgive me. Please forgive me. Let me go. I won't do it again. Please let me go." I didn't know who I was apologizing to. Everyone gathered around me. Aaron's mother tried to lift my head and placed her hand on my forehead. The moment her hand touched me, she felt a shock like an electric jolt, and a horrifying voice suddenly came out of me. "I am not your son." My voice had turned deep, rough, and terrifying, but for Aaron's family, this was not completely new. They had seen such things before. Aaron's mother stepped closer and asked, "Who are you?" The voice inside me replied, "Who am I? I am Samuel Rao, the owner of this house. He thinks he can come to my village, mock me, and I will stay silent? I will not spare him. I will not spare him. He insulted me, and he will be punished for it." I was speaking in the voice of Aaron's grandfather, and for them, that was terrifying, because I wasn't just some random kid. I was a guest. If something happened to me, they would be blamed. Aaron's mother kept pleading, "Please, he is our guest. He didn't know the rules. Forgive him." But the voice kept repeating, "No, I will not spare him today." I could hear everything, feel everything, but I couldn't speak or move, and honestly, I thought I was going to die. After almost an hour of pleading, Aaron's grandfather finally agreed, but with one condition: I had to go to the ancestral shrine in the middle of the night, ask forgiveness, and place a vermilion-filled coconut at their sacred spot. I had almost no strength, but somehow, dragging my feet and struggling to stand, I walked to the shrine in the pitch-black night. I apologized, placed the coconut there, and returned. For almost a week, I couldn't get out of bed. The fever stopped the next day, but the heaviness in my body, the exhaustion, the feeling of something draining my soul, stayed for days. I don't know what touched me that night, but I know one thing: I came very close to dying. And now I believe spirits, ghosts, ancestors, they exist, and if you mess with them deliberately, they do not forgive. Hello friends, my name is Victor, and I'm from Delhi. What I'm about to tell you today still makes my head heavy whenever I think about it. This incident was so terrifying that I never told my family. Only a few close friends know. This happened 6 years ago, when I was 19, in my first year of college. My college was inside Delhi, but my home was outside the city, so I had to take the buses every day. In the second bus, there was a girl my age who traveled regularly. She was extremely beautiful, but I never had the courage to talk to her. I kept waiting for the right chance to sit beside her, but every time, someone else took the seat next to her. Whenever our eyes met, we exchanged small smiles. I knew she liked me too. Months passed. Winter arrived and mornings became colder. Fewer people traveled early. One day, when I boarded my second bus, I noticed her side seat was empty. Gathering all my courage, I walked up to her. "Can I sit here?" She smiled slightly. "Yes, no problem." I was thrilled and sat next to her. I asked her name. "Ria," she said. "And yours?" "Victor." We talked slowly, and within a few days, we became friends. But she always avoided talking about herself. All I knew was that she worked in a call center. She never told me which one. We talked about news, movies, everyday things. As days passed, we grew closer, but I noticed something. Sometimes she became nervous while talking to me. Winter break was approaching, so one day, I finally asked for her number so we could stay in touch. The moment I asked, her face changed completely. She looked frightened. "I can't give you my number." I was confused. "But you like me, right?" she softly said. "I like you a lot, but you don't know who I am." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Then she said something that sent chills through my body. She whispered, "I am a witch." For a moment, I froze. Then, stupidly, I burst out laughing. She looked too innocent, too beautiful. How could she be a witch? But she wasn't smiling. I like you, and I won't lie to you. I still thought she was joking. So I teased her, if you're a witch, why take the bus? Why not just fly to work? Her expression changed instantly. She got angry. I will become a complete witch after I die. This made me laugh even more. I mockingly asked, oh really? So what powers do you have? Was thrown backward onto the floor. She quickly covered my mouth with her hand and whispered, keep your voice down. There were barely any people on the bus that day, and whoever was there was sitting at the back. She continued, I can't kill anyone, but I can make their life a living nightmare. Just then, the conductor's phone started ringing. Jokingly, I leaned toward Rashmi and said, all right then, try your magic on this conductor. Our stop had already arrived. She didn't say a single word, just got off the bus and walked away. I spent the entire day thinking that she probably didn't like me, and she must have said all those things just to scare me and cut ties. But the next morning, when I boarded the second bus, Rashmi wasn't there. I glanced around and noticed the conductor was missing too. I had been seeing that conductor for months. His name was Pankaj, and the bus driver was his brother. Something felt wrong. I walked up to the driver and asked, why isn't your brother here today? What he told me made my legs weak. He said, yesterday afternoon, Pankaj suddenly fell extremely sick, non-stop vomiting. We had to rush him to the hospital. My entire body turned cold. I couldn't believe it. Could she really be a witch? I was furious at myself. I was the one who told her to do something to the conductor. As I got off the bus, I gave the driver some money and said, this is for your brother. Please take it. He refused at first, but I insisted and walked away. All day long, I kept praying nothing bad would happen to Pankaj. I didn't have the courage to talk to Rashmi again, but I also needed to know how she did it. The next day, when I boarded the bus again, she was sitting all the way at the back. I froze the moment I saw her. I didn't dare sit beside her, so I took a seat at the very front. It became obvious she didn't work at a call center. She never dressed like she was going to an office, and she never carried a work bag. I decided I wasn't going to college that day. I was going to follow her. Where did she go every morning in this freezing cold? When she stepped off the bus, I avoided looking at her. A moment later, I also got off. She took an auto rickshaw. I quickly grabbed another one, handed the driver a 50-rupee note, and told him, follow that auto. I won't name the place, but the auto was heading toward a deserted part of Delhi. After about 10 minutes, Rashmi's auto stopped and she got out. My driver looked terrified, like he already knew something terrible was ahead. Rashmi scanned the area, making sure no one was following her. Then she walked toward an abandoned building. My legs didn't want to move, but I had to know the truth. I followed her from a distance as she stood in front of a crumbling structure. I couldn't see much, but it looked like she was murmuring something, whispering. A few seconds later, she went inside. Every part of my body screamed at me to turn back, but I'd spent my whole life making fun of these things. So for once, I wanted to see with my own eyes what was real. I decided to circle around and check from the back. There was a broken window. Inside was a large empty room. I heard voices, multiple voices. I squeezed myself through the window. Thinking back now, I want to slap myself. I was too young to understand how dangerous this was. The voices grew louder, clearer. They were talking about a mistake. Someone was saying, you should never have told him who you are. The room had no door on my side, so I peeked through a gap, and that's when my blood froze. Rashmi was talking to dead people. Their faces were charred, melted, unrecognizable. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. It was pure terror, enough to give someone a heart attack. I spun toward the window, but all those corpses were now standing right there, blocking the way. Everything after that is a blur. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the ground outside, far from the building. It took minutes just to understand where I was. I reached into my pocket for my phone, but instead, I found a folded piece of paper. It said, I like you. That's why I saved you today. You'll never see me again. My entire body went numb. I somehow made it home. Winter break started the next day, when the holidays ended, and I returned to the bus. She never came again. Even writing this story now makes my hands shake. Today, I have a good job and I'm getting married soon. But what I'm about to tell you still haunts me. This story is about a close friend of mine, Dr. Nikhil Parmar. I'm going to narrate it exactly as he told me. Being a doctor, he dealt with death regularly. People took their last breaths right in front of him. Yet he had to keep his emotions locked away. Part of the job, His clinic was in Patel Square, and his practice was doing well. Because of the long hours and constant exhaustion, he preferred living somewhere quiet. So he bought a flat not too far from the city. His shift usually ran from morning to evening, and every day he drove about 30 minutes from home to the hospital and back. But what happened to him one night was so terrifying that he nearly crashed his car that evening. He had to stay back at the hospital due to an emergency case. Normally, he finished at 9 p.m., but that night he didn't leave until around 12:30 a.m. Drained and exhausted, he headed toward the hospital gate to go home. Right as he stepped outside, a black cat crossed his path. The watchman stopped him and said, "Sir, forgive me for saying this, but it's past midnight. A black cat crossing your path at this hour is a very bad omen. Please wait a little inside and leave later. It's safer." But Nikhil never believed in these things. He laughed, shook his head, and asked the watchman to open the gate. A few minutes later, he was driving through a dirt road he had taken many times before. But that night, it felt unusually deserted. Suddenly, something rushed across the road in front of his car fast, like a wild animal. He brushed it off and kept driving. He had barely gone a little further when a huge goat suddenly appeared, right in the middle of the road. He slammed the brakes, the tires screeching loudly. The goat slowly turned its head toward the car, and what he saw made his blood freeze. The goat was holding a tiny skull in its mouth. Its body looked like a goat, but its head looked like a woman's. Long, tangled hair hung down all the way to the ground. Nikhil couldn't move. It wasn't fully a goat, and even if it was, a goat would never hold something like that. Being a doctor, he wondered for a moment if he was hallucinating. But then the creature turned completely, and the sight was horrifying. Its body was half woman, half goat. The front head and arms were human. The back was shaped like a goat, and then he saw it begin to change shape. He felt cold terror shoot up his spine. He immediately reversed the car, trying to turn around. But as he did, the creature began to grow taller and taller, its form shifting from goat-like to fully woman-like. He couldn't understand what he was seeing. Was it a hallucination? A nightmare? A demon? The half-goat, half-witch creature started moving slowly toward him. He lost control and screamed. He pressed the accelerator with all his strength, but it began chasing the car, running unnaturally fast. As he drove faster, it grew larger, shifting completely into the form of a witch. And he knew it was a witch because when he looked back, her feet were reversed, pointing backward as she ran toward him. He felt death approaching. His training as a doctor kicked in. He forced himself to stay calm, to think clearly. He pushed the car to 120 kilometers per hour. But suddenly the witch was no longer behind him. She appeared right in front of the car. Panicking, he thought, whatever that thing is, if I hit it at this speed, I'll drive right past it. He hit her, but he didn't feel a thing. She vanished instantly. White smoke filled the road. He kept driving, terrified, gripping the wheel. He looked into the rearview mirror, and then his eyes drifted to the back seat. The witch was sitting there. Her hair was covering her face. Her neck was twisted unnaturally. Her head kept turning at impossible angles. Nikhil's voice disappeared. He couldn't scream. He couldn't even breathe. His whole body began to shake uncontrollably. I was driving, waiting for the inevitable, horrifying death, when in the blink of an eye, the witch disappeared from the back seat and appeared on the passenger seat beside me. I didn't look at her. I was in complete shock, terrified beyond words. I kept driving, my eyes fixed straight ahead. Then, my heart nearly stopped. The witch detached her head from her body and placed it on my lap. A jolt of electricity ran through me. I felt dead inside. The sight was horrifying. Her head rested on my legs, while the rest of her body thrashed violently, like a severed animal struggling. That was the most frightening moment of my life. Panicking, I slammed on the brakes. The car screeched to a halt. I jumped out and ran like a madman. I didn't even care whether the witch was following me. I just ran. I ran until I collapsed, unconscious. When I woke up the next morning, I found myself back inside my car. Police vehicles and an ambulance were around me. People had begun to gather on the road. A few days later, after being discharged from the hospital, I investigated the area. I learned that not far from that deserted path, in a small hut, lived a tantric woman who performed dark rituals. She used goats and other innocent animals as sacrifices. Invoking black magic and spells, animals began disappearing from the surrounding villages. When the villagers discovered her activities, they tried to punish her. They even called the police, but before the authorities arrived, she somehow freed herself from the crowd. Inside her hut, she killed herself, using her own throat for the sacrifice. When the police broke into the hut, her head was suspended in the middle of the room. Eyes wide open, they couldn't understand how it was possible if she had cut her own throat. How could her head hang in midair? Though there was no concrete evidence, villagers believed that only her body had died. Her spirit remained alive, and she continued to walk the highway with her severed head. I had survived death that day, but I never dared take that shortcut again. My name is Virendra Singh, and I'm a retired Army soldier. This story happened just a few months after I had joined the Army. Because of security and confidentiality, I cannot disclose the name of our post. At the time, I was posted at a hill point near the Arunachal Pradesh border. Our main base was at the foot of the mountain, where we ate and slept every 24 hours. Soldiers were rotated to the hill point. Those on duty would descend, and 2 others would take their place. One day, it was my turn. I was climbing the mountain with a colleague. We carried food, water, rifles, and a few items for personal safety. As we climbed, my colleague moved slightly ahead. It was my first time on this path, so I didn't know much about the terrain. The moon cast a pale light over everything. I reached a vast open area surrounded by Himalayan peaks. At first, the scene was beautiful. The cold wind swept past me. I was slowly moving forward, admiring the scenery, when my eyes fell upon a hut built on a hill. It was surrounded by dense bushes. Everything else was silent, except for the whispering wind. A little further, my colleague disappeared from view. I called for him, but got no response. Then, faint light shone from the hut. I assumed he had gone inside, so I cautiously approached. For safety, I kept my rifle ready. I knocked on the door 2 or 3 times. No one answered. Then a voice came from inside. I thought perhaps my colleague was trying to scare me. I crept around to the back of the hut, where some cracks allowed light to seep through. Peering in through one, I saw a terrifying sight. Near the wall stood a blackened idol of goddess Mahakali, placed on a corpse. At her feet was a Havenkund ritual fire pit, sending fragrant smoke into the room. I saw a man sitting in front of the Havenkund ritual fire pit. His back was facing me, so I couldn't see his face. His back was covered with deep scratches, and his head was completely shaved. Next to the Havenkund lay a long cleaver. Beside it, a young woman was lying down. Her entire body was smeared with vermilion, and she wore a garland of flowers around her neck. No imagination could prepare anyone for a sight like that. I watched, frozen, trying to understand what they were doing. I could hear nothing, yet the man's lips moved. He seemed to be chanting some kind of spell. After a while, the man standing in front of me picked up a glass-like object. He drank from it, sip by sip. It wasn't alcohol, it had to be some strong intoxicant, because after drinking it, his expression changed. He looked more terrifying, constantly pressing his tongue and lips between his teeth, like a psychotic person in a sudden frenzy. He grabbed the cleaver and stood in front of the young woman. I realized something horribly wrong was about to happen. I pounded on the hut, screaming at them to leave the girl alone, but my voice seemed to vanish into the walls. No one answered. Then the man turned slightly toward me. His eyes were blood red, drawn and hollow. I could feel the cold terror crawling into my bones. He raised the cleaver and brought it down on the girl's neck. A loud crack echoed, followed by a blood-curdling scream. In panic, I fired a few rounds into the air, but it had no effect. I suspected that what I had witnessed might be some kind of black magic. I ran. A little later, my colleague returned, looking for me. I could barely speak at first. Then, gathering my courage, I told him everything. I dragged him back to the spot, pointing to the open field. "This is it, this is the hut," I said. But when I looked, there was nothing. No hut, no light, everything was gone. My colleague turned on his torch and searched around. He saw nothing either, then laughed. "Why are you laughing?" I asked. "I saw a man sacrificing the girl. The scream, the blood, it's all real," I said. Then he told me the history of this place. About 100 years ago, Aghori ascetics lived here. They had a massive monastery and practiced dark rituals. When India gained independence, the government removed the monastery and established a Gorkha regiment post. But shortly after, soldiers began dying mysteriously. Some reported seeing ghosts and apparitions, just like what I had seen. Eventually, the government relocated the post further down the hill. "My friend," he said, "what you saw, I've never seen it myself. Sometimes you can still hear crying and screams, but I know about this place, so I ignore it. You, too, don't follow anything strange you see. These are not good spirits, they are gory entities. Also, the fire you discharged must be reported. We returned to our post and radioed the headquarters, explaining that we had fired to scare away some kind of wild creature. Even after returning, while on patrol, my eyes kept drifting back to that open field. I saw the hut, the horrifying man, the Kali statue, the screaming girl, and all the terrifying things several times. For days, I couldn't sleep, but the country's safety was more important than my fear. I eventually learned to ignore it. In time, I became used to it, though the memory never left me. Then there's a separate story from last year about my friend Nietzsche, who loved collecting antiques. One day, she went to an antique shop. She was examining old items carefully when she noticed a 60-year-old clay pot. On top of the pot was a tiny clay doll Dot. As she reached for the pot, her hand accidentally knocked the doll to the ground. The crash echoed, and the shopkeeper immediately rushed over. The clay doll was strong, but since it fell from a great height, its clay fingers broke into pieces. Nietzsche liked the pot a lot, but the shopkeeper had already posted a notice inside the store: handle items carefully. If any item is accidentally damaged, the customer must buy it. Reluctantly, Nietzsche bought the black clay doll. What she didn't know was that along with the doll, she was bringing home an unknown evil. When Nietzsche looked into the doll's eyes, they glowed eerily. She thought perhaps it was a unique, rare item, but the shopkeeper had failed to notice its true nature. Nietzsche placed the doll in her cupboard. That night, she had a terrifying dream. In the dream, she was in an ancient, burned-down palace. She kept hearing the sound of dancing bells, but saw nothing around her. The ruins were charred and desolate. Despite being scared, she was drawn toward the sound. She crossed every door until she reached the palace's upper floor. There, she found a large, burnt hall. Inside was a grand painting of a man, looking like a king or landlord. As she touched the painting, her hand burned, and she heard someone laughing behind her. She turned to see the doll lying there. As she bent down to pick it up, the doll's eyes glowed, and she saw burnt feet before her. Looking up, she noticed a dark shadow and woke up trembling. The doll was still in her cupboard. Nietzsche was paralyzed with fear, and over the next 5 nights, she had the same nightmare repeatedly. She started seeing the doll everywhere in her house. Whenever she looked at it, its eyes glowed automatically. Finally, she told me about the doll and her dreams. She brought the doll to my place. Looking at it, I saw that the doll was not moving and its eyes weren't glowing yet, but it looked terrifying. Nietzsche explained that ever since the doll came home, her nightmares started. I'm a professional detective, but I had never believed in ghosts. I thought Nietzsche was simply scared and letting her imagination affect her. However, for Nietzsche's peace of mind, I promised to investigate the doll's past and kept it with me. The next day, I took the doll back to the antique shop. When I showed it to the shopkeeper, he refused to identify it. After I threatened police action, he said he didn't know much, except that a thief in the neighborhood had stolen it. I started searching for the thief, and after 3 days, I caught him. As soon as he saw the doll, he panicked. Remove it from my sight. This is a human doll. I asked him everything he knew. The thief revealed that the doll came from Lalaganj Palace, a very old, burned property. From the day he stole it, he had repeatedly seen a burnt girl's apparition, so he sold it to the shopkeeper for a low price, despite questioning. I learned little about the doll's past, so I decided to investigate Lalaganj Palace myself. That midnight, I went alone, torch in hand. The palace looked terrifying from the outside, long abandoned. A sign warned, "Do not enter. You enter at your own risk." But my profession didn't allow fear to stop me. I entered, crossing door after door until I reached the palace's center. It was exactly like Nietzsche's dream. The upper floor caught my attention. I opened the door and saw the burned old hall, with charred curtains and the same burnt portrait. Just as Nietzsche described, the face was damaged by fire, but at the bottom, the name Narayan Das Gupta was written. Suddenly, a laugh echoed. I turned, but no one was there. As I searched the area, my torch stopped working. While banging it to restart, I smelled decayed, burned flesh. I knew something terrible was about to happen. Finally, the torch flickered on. I saw a burnt shadow and fell backward in terror, but the shadow vanished instantly. I ran outside, and looking back, I saw a burning girl's figure staring at me from the upper floor. I started my car and fled, realizing this was no ordinary case. The next morning, I told Nietzsche what had happened. She was scared, but I explained that if the doll or ghost wanted to harm us, it would have done so by now. It seemed the spirit wanted to communicate. The questions remained. What connection did the doll have with the burnt girl? Who owned the palace? What really happened to that girl? The first clue was Narayan Das Gupta. Perhaps he could tell us the truth. After much effort, we discovered that the Lalaganj property belonged to Narayan Das Gupta, a wealthy businessman. He initially refused meetings, so I devised a plan. I called him about buying the property, and he agreed to meet. We arrived at his office. I heard you want to buy the property? He asked. Yes, but first we need information. What happened there? Why do people fear it even today? He said, 30 years ago, I leased the property to a landlord. One night, I went to collect rent, and suddenly, a fire broke out. The Lalaganj palace burned down. There was no fire brigade at the time. People spread rumors about a girl's spirit living there ever since. I asked why he hadn't repaired it. He replied that managing his business took all his time, and the palace was in a remote village. Narayan Das Gupta's statements were unclear. Perhaps he was hiding something. 2 nights later, Nietzsche again dreamed of a voice repeating, "Revenge, revenge, revenge." That night, I decided to go to Lalaganj Palace with Nietzsche. She was scared, but I convinced her that to end the nightmares, we had to uncover the doll's secret. We reached the palace late at night. It was deserted, yet the upper floor drew our attention. Inside, the hall was exactly like her dream. Nietzsche stood before the burnt portrait, her eyes glowing red. Nietzsche's eyes started glowing on their own, as she began moving around the room as if she could now clearly see what had happened there. 30 years ago, there was no fear visible in Nietzsche anymore. She was touching everything in the room as if she recognized it. Finally, she reached a wardrobe. "Get me out of here. I'm suffocating. Get me out of here. Who is it? Get me out of here. Who is it?" Seeing the wardrobe, she started crying loudly. "Nietzsche, Nietzsche, what's wrong? Nietzsche, why are you crying? Nietzsche, wake up." When I pushed her, Nietzsche came to her senses. As she regained consciousness, she told me everything she had seen there. I opened the wardrobe and found some clay bones inside. Nietzsche explained that these were the bones of a woman named Sundari. Narayan Das Gupta had kept her as a servant in this room. Sundari had believed that Narayan Das would marry her, but one day when she asked him, he refused. Narayan Das traded girls in the mansion, bringing beautiful girls there and selling them to wealthy men. When Sundari tried to expose his secret, he locked her in the wardrobe, set the mansion on fire, and with the mansion, his secret was destroyed as well. The doll had also been trapped in that wardrobe, and after her death, Sundari's spirit used the doll as a medium to seek revenge on Narayan Das. At that moment, we both heard the sound of a gungru ankle bells echoing through the mansion, along with another voice repeating, "Revenge, revenge." By now, Nietzsche and I had learned the whole truth about Narayan Das Gupta, and that the clay girl was none other than Sundari. She only wanted revenge for what Narayan Das had done to her. The next day, we made a plan. We knew Narayan Das would not easily come to the mansion, so we offered him a proposal. We wanted to buy the mansion that very day, but he would have to come with us inside to complete the transaction. We would pay him double the amount he had quoted for the Lalaganj mansion. Hearing our proposal, Narayan Das agreed to come to the mansion. That evening, we all reached outside the mansion, but Narayan Das initially refused to enter, wanting to negotiate outside. Somehow, we convinced him to go inside. Once inside, Narayan Das' 30-year-old memories resurfaced, and he began to clearly see the consequences of his actions. He started moving toward the room on the upper floor. Nietzsche and I stood below, watching, when we heard a laughing voice, "Go away. Leave this place, or you will be responsible for your own death." Hearing this, Nietzsche and I exited the mansion. As soon as we stepped outside, the mansion's doors shut automatically from the inside. Only Sundari's spirit and Narayan Das remained inside. We decided to leave the doll there and go home then. We heard screams coming from inside the mansion. There was no doubt that the screams were Narayan Das, and Sundari was taking revenge for what had happened to her. That night, Nietzsche had no nightmares. The next morning, we saw in the newspaper that Narayan Das Gupta had died in a fire at his own Lalaganj mansion. Hello friends, I am your friend Siraj, and today we will talk about a true terrifying event, a real haunted place known as the Ghost Hospital, which is still closed due to paranormal incidents. This story is from a small village in Uttar Pradesh. In 1982, the government built a health center there, but due to some bizarre events, it was closed within a few days. As we know, from childhood, we hear ghost stories usually from grandparents or parents to scare us or keep us from mischief. But in this village, it's not just children who are afraid. Even adults fear the hospital. The dilapidated hospital stands as a frightening reality. Even today, at night, village children are warned and silenced with tales of the haunted hospital. People say that in the middle of the night, terrifying sounds come from the hospital, making it difficult for villagers to spend the night there. Sometimes there are cries, sometimes screams, and sometimes continuous loud laughter. No one in the village has dared to enter to see where these terrifying sounds come from. Villagers claim that even during the day, around noon, passing by the hospital causes a strange sensation as if the hospital is full of patients crying. But when you look at the hospital, nothing is visible. Even more frightening is that no animals or birds are seen near the hospital. It seems even they fear the place. The hospital stands on the main road of the village, and villagers have to pass by it to go in or out. So after sunset, they leave the road deserted, always fearing the shadow of a ghost. Some villagers claim that occasionally, dogs bark or suddenly start crying at the hospital, indicating the presence of a ghostly entity. People say the sounds are not heard every day, but when they do occur, the villagers wait for the night to pass and for morning to come, as they spend the night in terror. Some elders say the hospital was built for villagers' medical care, but no one knew that the treatment would involve the dead rather than the living. Once, 2 men in the village fought, and one was badly injured and admitted to the hospital. He died due to lack of treatment. A few days later, villagers claimed to see him near the hospital, which reduced traffic there. Gradually, strange incidents increased. Sometimes the hospital doors opened on their own at night, and at first, doctors thought it was negligence. Later, they realized someone was deliberately opening the doors. Sometimes, loud cries were heard in the middle of the night. The doctors were bewildered but gradually stopped visiting, and within a few months, the hospital was permanently closed. Villagers believe that at night, the hospital treats ghosts, which is why strange noises are heard. Although the doctor's team still visits the village for medical care, they never go inside the old health center.